Notre Dame taking care of business last night at home. Final score over Indiana in the first ever college football playoff game on campus was 27-17. And y'all, to be honest, the score was not actually indicative of how that game really felt. Like, I was sitting there at one point, I want to say it was towards the end of the second half, and they were up by 17. I was like, it feels like a lot more than 17 right now. Like Indiana scoring another 2 touchdowns would feel, like from here to Europe, to be quite honest with you. So, with all that being said, what do we make of what Notre Dame did last night? We'll talk about it right now. Make sure you're subscribed right here, though, to the On3 YouTube channel. Fighting Irish fans, your team's about to go toe-to-toe with one of the best teams in America, in Georgia. We'll have a prediction for you here this week on this platform. So make sure you're subscribed, make sure you're dialed in, and we appreciate you in advance for that. So before we get to the game breakdown, I just want to start with this. What Marcus Freeman did this season in South Bend, after they lose to Northern Illinois, to be able to circle the wagons and to be able to study that locker room, study that staff, quite frankly, study himself, this is one of the best coaching jobs in America this year. Period. Now, I think the NIU situation will get a lot of kickback on social media and say you can't lose to a G5 team, this, that, and the other. I hear you. I'm not saying you're wrong. But I'm saying to be able to refocus and to have this team go on an absolute tear, win every game since then, including a college football playoff game, and to be able to meet that moment, I think that speaks volumes to the way that this team buys into Marcus Freeman. I think it speaks volumes to the culture he's built there. I think it speaks volumes to the roster he put together. Because last night, man, they just did good football team things, is the best way I can say it. Good football team things. What do good football teams do? They control the tempo of a game. Last night, Notre Dame, time of possession, 35 minutes. To Indiana's 24 minutes. And again, it felt like it was substantially more favoring Notre Dame. Good football teams, what do? Control the line of scrimmage. Marcus Freeman talks about being an offensive line, defensive line driven program. 2.3 yards a carry allowed. Right around 200 rush yards from Notre Dame. Like, they controlled the trenches. And that was the end-all be-all. You could tell from the first few snaps, like, okay, Indiana, we got to buckle up here. And Indiana's not a bad football team. We'll talk more about that in a second, but like, Indiana came into this thing with one of the best rush defenses in America. Jeremiah Love popped a 98-yarder, and then they just absolutely beat him over the skull the rest of the game. Riley Leonard is a guy that's been polarizing, I think, for the better part of this season. I think a lot of people have a strong take on him, whether it be positive or negative. Here's my take on Riley Leonard. If you're a Notre Dame fan, he may not be everything that you want a quarterback to be in the Mike Denbrock offense. Like, he's not Jaden Daniels. He's not going for ridiculous all-purpose yards totals. He's not throwing for 300 a game. Like, he's not that guy. What he is, though, I think, is a lot more of what you need. And what you need is what I just said. Someone who's going to complement the defense, not give the football away consistently. Had one turnover last night, is what it is. Ball up top. Ran the football at a high level. Adds another element to the run game. Kind of, I think, is in some ways a mirror image of what you want this offense to be, which is physical, dynamic, make good throws when you got to have them. Had the nice little C to Jordan Faison. Like, don't try to do too much. Don't give the football away. Make explosive when we got to have explosives. And, like, we're going to be in good shape here. Know your role. We all get paid. Coach told me that one time, and I think it's 100% true. Within that conversation about, like, what they need offensively, Notre Dame winning a national championship falls a lot on Riley Leonard, absolutely, but I think in the same breath, it falls a lot on those skill players. Because in this game against Georgia coming up, like, I don't see a world where Notre Dame just outmatched defensively. Like, we saw it last night. Indiana, a good offense. Curtis Rourke's a good quarterback. Like, they had him in a blender last night. And so what I mean to say there is, in a game where it could be played in the trenches with a Georgia, and it's kind of a grudge match, if you will, you got to have some pop to you. Got to have some explosive. Like that Jeremiah Love, when he went 98 yards, you're like, okay, that's the leverage Notre Dame needed. Jordan Faison making plays in the open field. That's the kind of the extra gear this Notre Dame offense needs to be able to separate when they get in these potential rock fight scenarios with these football teams that are, of a similar caliber, I would say, on the line of scrimmage. Notre Dame, man, they have the makings. I'll say this. They have the makings to beat Georgia. I'm not calling our shot right now. We'll do our prediction on Tuesday. But, like, you look at the way that Notre Dame's built up front, they're not getting overwhelmed. Again, Indiana, I don't think that they're Georgia, but they're not a bad football team up front. Riley Leonard, if he plays his best football game, if he brings something with his legs, Haynes King gave Georgia quite a bit of trouble with his legs, if we're just going to be honest here. A lot of it's going to fall on Mike Denbrock. But just to bring this whole point home, this is not the same old Irish. That this is not your old Notre Dame that shows up in the first round of the college football playoff and gets boat raced by Clemson, or shows up in the BCS national title game and Eddie Lacy goes for however many yards he goes for and it's over by the first quarter. This is not that Fighting Irish. No disrespect to those teams, but this is a very different outfit. They're physical. They have some real, I think, skill players to them that can make them dangerous. And I think, again, they're one of those forces that's going to be reckoned with throughout the rest of this college football playoff. They're going to be a tough out. There's a reason Vegas has that game right now as a 1.5-point lean towards the Dogs. 1.5 points. I mean, it is what it is, man. That should tell you that Notre Dame has more than a puncher's chance and should tell you what Vegas thinks about Notre Dame. Here's the one thing that I am a little bit irked by this morning when it comes to the game last night around Notre Dame and Indiana. Twitter's just toxic. Can we be honest? Twitter's toxic. Twitter's not real life. However, Twitter controls a lot of the narrative when it comes to the sports world. And the narrative on the sports app last night that is Twitter was, well, Indiana, they're not very good. Indiana kind of sucks. Indiana's kind of fraudulent. Because what you're doing in your mind is saying, okay, they played nobody, played Ohio State, got boat raced. Okay, played nobody the rest of the way, then played Notre Dame, and the final score was what it was. But, I mean, if you watched that football game, it was just absolute abuse from Notre Dame. So you're saying, well, Indiana, they don't deserve to be in the college football playoff. Indiana, they're actually not very good. One, where was this energy before Selection Sunday? Talking about SMU and the other SEC teams that are fighting for that last spot. Nobody talked about Indiana. Why? Because you weren't arguing with their resume. They had one loss to a top 5, top 3 team at the time in Ohio State. Nobody was pushing back on Indiana getting into the college football playoff because they had a solid margin of victory against other lesser opponents. Great. Okay, so there's that. But what I would say is you can be a good football team. And I do think Indiana, for all their faults, for how bad they looked last night, I think they are a good football team. What Kirsten has done there, I think, is admirable. However, we've seen this and we've said this. If you don't routinely step under the heavy bar, if your schedule does not force you to do that, whether it's your fault or not, it's going to come back to bite you. Indiana, the only heavy lift they had the entire year was Ohio State in Columbus. We saw what happened. The bar absolutely folded them like a soft pretzel. The rest of the year, man, they're at Orange Theory. I'm here for Orange Theory. No shade to Orange Theory, but you're doing cardio the rest of the year, doing reps for reps. You're not stepping under that squat rack. You're not having to go play teams that are nice like that in the trenches. And I'm not telling you Notre Dame was playing, the freaking Kansas City Chiefs every week, but the point stands the same. Notre Dame had a greater test of resistance. Notre Dame was in fight or flight since that second week of the season. Notre Dame, I think, did they step under the heaviest bar in the world with their schedule? No, but it was a lot more than what Indiana had to do. And I think in a large part, that played a factor in last night's game and a big reason why Notre Dame did what they did. So just so we're all on the same page, different Irish. Marcus Freeman and himself, I think Notre Dame was very, very wise to get that contract done before this college football playoff. They got a squad that can make some noise. I hope now, too, this flushes all the thoughts around the NIU loss and all the jokes there. I'm here for jokes. I'm here for, a little bit of, I'm here for the punchline culture to an extent when it's all fun and games, but Notre Dame's a good football team, all right? And I think we all saw that last night. And what they do in man coverage as well. I didn't say this, but I want to say this. What they do in man coverage as well is only going to accentuate the trenches even more going forward. So, excited to have you all along for this ride, man. 12-team playoff is here. Last night's scene in South Bend was incredible. Excited for this slate of games here, man. We want y'all a part of all of the content we're doing here. Make sure you are subscribed. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time.